Hello everyone, welcome live to 3Y TV Tonight's broadcast of the Taz Racing Customs Superspeedway Series back at the Daytona International Speedway once again for what's going to be the final time this season, as the season is going to come to a close next weekend right here on 3Y TV. That's right. We know for sure we'll be broadcasting the season finale right here on the channel next week. I'm Peter Short, and joining me alongside is Andre Graham Bush. And Andre, great to have you back up here in the 3Y TV booth. I know you're up here a decent amount over the past 12 months or so. But Daytona, new package with these Cup cars. I'm excited for tonight's race.
Oh, it's going to be great. You talked about this new package, and it is a lot different. You were telling me a little bit about it prior to the broadcast, and you had mentioned that side draft's really strong, and it's really the best way to make an overtake, but also kind of a good way to defend. If somebody starts getting that run, they get alongside you, throw a little side draft out, try to prevent that run. I think it's going to be a lot of battling all over the track.
Yeah, I think it is going to be a lot of battling all the way around. And, we have seen over the past couple of weeks the drivers adapting to this new format, this new package that we have. And they've been doing so quite well. Not a lot of caution flags in the past couple of races here on the channel. So that's going to be something we'll be keeping our eyes on here tonight. Meanwhile, we are in the qualifying session already for tonight's race. 55 laps in the books for tonight, and really excited to see what this man can do. That's Colin Ullery in the number 62 machine, the points leader coming into tonight. And I know one thing you and I were talking about, Andre, was that points system here in this series is very unique, trying to get drivers to finish the race.
Absolutely. It's a very different point system from anything I've ever seen, but I gotta say, I really do like the way that they have this laid out. Drivers will be penalized 1 point for every 12 incident points they get in the simulation, which was obviously meant to deter causing too many incidents or getting involved in too much. And I think, Peter, like you said, we've had a lot of caution-free racing in this league, and I think that's probably got something to do with it.
Yeah, I've been involved in many big ones on super speedways in iRacing, NASCAR Racing 2003 season, and more. And so it is always nice to have a league that tries to prevent the big one from happening, trying to keep their racers out there on the racetrack for the entirety of the event. Of course, these drivers in this particular series do have one fast repair, as that number 62 machine is going to come around to complete his second qualifying lap. Goes across that stripe. Does he go top of the board? No. Looks like Colin Ullery will go second on the board right now, but those times will continue to click off as the cars go across the stripe. It was Doug Neal just a little while ago who's been on an absolute tear here as of late. Looks like he's put in his second qualifying lap. He's going to be fourth on the board here with just about 2 minutes left. Let's see if we can pick up some of those other cars that are out there on the racetrack, including Brian Bradley in the number 16 machine, but also Jeffrey Vickery, one of the Threat Level Midnight Motorsports machines. And I gotta say, big shout out to Threat Level Midnight for sponsoring tonight's race here in the Taz Racing Customs Superspeedway Series. He comes to the line in the number 21 machine. I think that was his first lap here, Andre. So let's see if we can go on board with him for lap number 2. Well, it looks like this might be his first time lap right now as he's up there on the high banks.
And that is the strategy, Peter. You want to run that high line on that first lap. Reason being, it's a longer way around the track, and the further you go, the more momentum you're able to build. It carries into that second lap, and at that point, once you take that second lap, you want to dive to the bottom and hug that yellow line as close as you can within legality, and just try to get the best time you can that way. So you can see he's right up against that wall, kind of using those striped white lines there as a bit of a marker. But then as he comes to the line, I think we're going to see him dip right down to that low line.
Yeah, and while we were looking at the driver of the number 21 machine, Chris Darling has jumped up to the top of the board as well. So, great qualifying run for the number 47 machine. We'll see what the 21 can do right here. Shane Ledoux, his teammate, currently back in the 15th position. Another one of the Threat Level Midnight machines that we'll be seeing in action here tonight. Halfway down the backstretch for the number 21 of Vickery, keeping that car at speed. And last week we were at iRacing Superspeedway. We were seeing speeds upwards of 230, almost 240 miles an hour. Well, here tonight, 185 miles an hour for Jeffrey Vickery. We got those tapered spacers on the cars that will kind of bring them all back together out there on the racetrack. But Vickery completing his hot lap here just as the clock expired. And look at that. 47.707. And Jeffrey Vickery will be picking up the pole award here tonight. Talk about leaving it late there, Andre.
Absolutely. And only 0.03 of a second is going to separate the top four. Very close lap times all around, but Vickery just barely able to nose out the competition, getting the fastest lap with a 47.706. And now drivers are getting gridded up, and they are ready to get this thing underway.
That is for sure. So we'll get those drivers out there on to the grid here tonight. But let's see if we can bring up the starting lineup for this race. There it is on your screen. Jeffrey Vickery in the number 21 be starting on the pole. Christopher Darling alongside him starting from second. Jason Gracias there rolling off from third. Colin Ullery there fourth. Andrew Himmelman and Doug Neal on row number 3. Sean Kostritza and Jeff Wyatt on row number 4. Ben Adams and James Woodard on row number 5 there, Andre.
And back from them, you got Steven Doziak Jr. and Paul Bilson. They're going to be the row behind them, 11th and 12th. Looking a little bit further on back from them, you got Evan Gilbert and Brian Bradley, Woody Woodward and Shane Ledoux, Evan Burke and Dominic Previte behind them, Kyle Lewis and Brad Kirby, and the last driver to actually post a lap time, Nathan Maurer, Ben Mashburn and John Dobble opted to not post qualifying lap time, so they're going to be starting at the back of the field. Maybe a little bit of strategy there. Feel a little bit safer behind the action, and if anything happens, maybe trying to stay behind it and be able to avoid it.
And folks, I'm still getting used to this new stuff that we have here on 3Wide TV, so I honestly don't know how to go back. I need to talk to our other producer and figure out how to do this. We got these new fancy graphics just a week ago, and I'm still learning how to do them. You only get to do the grid thing once a race, so you don't get to practice it very often, but we do get to practice all the good stuff right in the race here just a little bit. There you see your front row. Chris Darling, the 47 machine on the outside, just being pipped to the pole by that number 21 of Jeffrey Vickery. Tonight's race sponsor, Threat Level Midnight. In fact, Jeffrey reached out to us here on 3Wide TV, said, you know what, I want this race broadcast as well as next week. So Threat Level Midnight will be on as the series sponsor 1 week from now as well. Pace car about to head down pit road, Andre, and we're about to go racing here for 55 laps at Daytona International Speedway.
The green flag flies, and it looks like the inside row is going to get the jump. The 47 actually backs it up to the bumper of the car behind him. That's the 62 of Colin Ullery. They're kind of linked up at the bumper right now as the bottom lane's got them in a bit of a freight train trying to make their way around them. And the leader has about a 2-car length gap. Jeffrey Vickery was able to get way out ahead, but Peter, that might be a bit of a detriment. At these plate tracks, you don't quite want to get that far out.
Yeah, well, with this package, what we have seen is, oh man, a little bit of jostling there mid-pack. I think that is the old guy racing machine of Jeff Wyatt almost making contact with the number 46 of Sean Kostritza. But with this package, it doesn't seem like that matters as much as it used to, Andre. It seems like when you can get that big jump, you can almost play the Pied Piper role that Dale Earnhardt Jr. used to run here at Daytona. Just kind of mind your P's and Q's up at the front. We saw a lot of laps led last week and the week before by a singular car. And now that Jeffrey Vickery's out front, I'm sure he's going to be thinking, trying to do the same thing that he saw last week here. Is the car behind him, though, the number 1 of Jason Gracias, we know he's a little bit of a gambler here. That number 1, he really tries to go for the race lead when he can. He's got a big run. He's going to jump to the outside, side by side for the race lead, going off into turn number 3.
He's going to try to make that high line work, and so far it has. He's got the number 20 car right behind him, and those two are going to work together in tandem to try and make something happen up there. They are door-to-door with the 21 with a huge shot. 3 cars coming together with the 20 in the middle. The 20 got a little bit unsettled there. I believe that was the 47 car that gave a big push to the 20, which then, of course, transferred to the number 1, but it's going to be enough. The number 1 car is clear of the 21 just barely, He's going to dive down to the bottom lane, and we have a new leader, Jason Gracias.
Yeah, he was just barely clear. You're absolutely right. Got a little bit of help there from the number 20 of Andrew Himmelman right there on the high line. Now look, all of a sudden, that inside groove starting to lose ground on the outside pack. Here comes Doug Neal, the SIMBOX number 78 machine right there on the center of your picture. Vickery, your Polstead are going to slide back to fourth. Himmelman going to slide into third. Look at the 47 machine of Darling. He's now all over the back bumper of Jason Gracias, but they're 3 wide back behind them. Look at that going across the start-finish line. Already 3 wide on lap number 3.
Yeah, things are heating up really quickly. Unfortunately for the 21, as exciting as 3 wide can be, the middle is never the place you want to be. Sometimes on the real broadcast, they call that the sucker hole, and that's why, man. He is dropping back as we nearly go 4 wide in the corner for a minute. Back to 3 wide now. The 21's still trapped in the middle. Nowhere to go as he's continually losing positions. This is not a good situation for Paul Bilson. Or, I'm sorry, Jeffrey Vickery.
Yeah, and Doug Neal there in the number 78 machine throwing up some sparks on the right-hand side. We're still 3 wide. James Woodard there in the number 3. Jeff Wyatt may be making a little bit of contact. There's the number 12 of Shane Ledoux back there. Look at the number 18 machine. That's Kyle Lewis. He just got underneath the 86. Looks like here at Daytona, Andre, they're looking like they're on a short track or something with how close they're racing with one another and the tight quarters between a lot of these cars already. Definitely looks like we're in for a good one here tonight on 3 Wide TV.
I absolutely agree. And going into this race, I kind of wondered, how much patience is going to be involved? Obviously on plate tracks, you can be aggressive or you can be patient, and either strategy is just as viable. But with these shorter races, we got 55 laps, which isn't too much. It's a decent length race, but it is short enough that you kind of think, man, it's go time pretty soon into the race. Just a few laps in, you start thinking, man, I better start getting some track position, doing what I can, as we're looking at Brad Kirby on screen right now. This third pack's kind of dropping back a little bit from the main pack, but looks like the patience kind of wore out pretty quick there. A lot of guys jostling for position, trying to get what they can early, and they do have a quick repair, so if anything goes wrong early in this event, then they would be able to get back out on the track. So, again, maybe that's playing into the kind of aggression that we're seeing, as that third pack is really starting to fall back there, Peter.
Yeah, this front pack right now has the numbers, as you can see out there. They are all kind of nose to tail and have about a second back to the next group of cars, led by the number 23 of Ben Mashburn. Paul Bilson right there in the 51 is at the back of this group, right behind Evan Gilbert. Then that's where you have that gap back to Ben Mashburn. This second group of cars, which goes all the way back to Jeff Wyatt. Wyatt running in the 16th position. And then you have about 0.8 of a second back to Evan Burke. He's back there now with this pack of cars with Dominic Provite, John Doble, Doug Neal. In fact, remember, Neal was up there near the front of the field not all too long ago. And then you have a big gap back to the Kirby Esports machine of Brad Kirby, Nathan Maurer, and Woody Woodard in this 3-car tandem. Hopefully, they're just hoping, Andre, that maybe some of these other cars get together and there's a caution flag with them kind of laying back. They'll have plenty of time to adapt and slow down if there's a big accident.
Absolutely. It really reminds me a lot of the strategy that we've seen Joe Gibbs teams pull a lot in real NASCAR. Whenever we go to a plate track, you'll see the Joe Gibbs cars kind of drop back in their own little world. And a lot of times it works out pretty well. If anything happens in front of them, they're far enough back that they can avoid it. And usually you see them there at the end. So hopefully it plays out similar for Kirby and everybody else involved in that pack. But only time will tell. I'm assuming they're going to have to pit. I don't think they can make it 55 laps on fuel. That'd be a bit of a stretch. So again, that's just another opportunity to maybe pull some strategy, see what you can possibly gain or lose as we ride on board with the number 46, Sean Kostrica. I apologize if I did not pronounce that correctly. I'm sure I didn't. But he is right in tow, and this camera gives you a good idea.
Of the leader up at the front of the train, in this instance, Jason Gracias, who's a couple cars in front of Sean Kostrica here, to just hold a line, stay steady down the entire front stretch and the back stretch. You see a little bit of connection issues there out of Andrew Himmelman. But for Gracias here, he just kind of has to hold the line, and everyone behind him has to follow in suit, try and hold their line nice and smoothly as well. It's kind of a tango that you do here at Daytona and Talladega and even iRacing Superspeedway, Andre.
Absolutely. And it's really easy to unknowingly emulate whatever the driver in front of you is doing. If you're following somebody and all you can see is their bumper and they start weaving back and forth, maybe kind of drifting between lanes, you'll end up following them and not even realize you're doing it. And I've even seen situations where later into the run, when the tires start to get a little bit more worn, the car gets a little bit more tight on exit, the guy in front will drift up and scrape against the wall, and the guy behind him just follows and does the exact same thing. So, like you said, it is really the responsibility of the leader to try to keep that thing straight, try to keep the field from kind of pulling what I call the caterpillar maneuver, where everybody's just kind of up and down the track. But so far, the number one car, Jason Gracias, he has done a phenomenal job holding that lead, holding his line. He's got that 47 car, Chris Darling. They've been working together, and you've seen a few times now that 47 gets up to the bumper of the one, gives him a push, gets a little bit of separation to the cars behind, and then he kind of backs off, lets the car cool down. And if they keep that up, if they keep kind of using that cycle there, I think they're going to have no problem holding the lead for now.
Yeah, you see the number 5 machine, Ben Adams back there, the SimShots machine, just kind of poking his nose, a little bit lower there on the backstretch. I'm wondering if any of these drivers have any concerns about overheating, Andre. I know that's one thing that you see sometimes on super speedways, but at least for right now, this front pack all the way back from Gracias to Steven Doziak in the number 55 machine are continuing to pull away from the drivers back behind them. In fact, we'll see if we can bring up kind of the last lap from a lot of these drivers up there kind of at the top of your screen, because you'll be able to see that this front group is continuing to stretch out the gap to Ben Mashburn. You see them all right there. Where is Ben Mashburn? Well, he's all the way back there. Isn't that crazy, Andre, that front group really well lined up? They have 9 cars versus this one, which has 7, and 9 is definitely holding strong. Possibly having some issues a little bit further back in the pack. Let's see what happened here. This is on a quick replay. Dominic Provite in the number 39 machine, hearing there might have been some contact. Let's see here. Let's go full speed, and sure enough, got hooked off the. Oh man, we're going a little bit too fast there. Let's see if we can get a little bit better replay here of that one. But we stay green flag. Can you believe this one here on 3Y TV?
That is one of the worst places to get spun on this track. A lot of areas on this track, if you spin out, you got a lot of runoff where you'll be able to slide through and recover the car. But right there, that wall sticks out a lot further than anywhere else because it's the end of pit road. And unfortunately for the 39 car, he just caught the tail end of it. Now, he does have a quicker pair. He's going to be able to get that thing back on track. Unfortunately, he may end up losing a lap. So he's going to have to rely on a caution possibly coming out just to go on board. For another perspective on what happened, it seems like he drifted up a little bit. The car behind him kind of took that as a sign to say, all right, I'm going to try to make that pass. But then he came back down, and I don't think the car behind was expecting that. So they just kind of came together, locked bumpers, and a racing incident, but unfortunate for that 39 car.
Yeah, that is definitely for sure. Meanwhile, up at the front of the field, we're closing in on pit stops here, Andre. The field does run a smaller fuel tank here in the Taz Racing Customs Super Speedway Series, so we get to see a lot more pit stops than what you typically see on other racetracks, and definitely getting on and off pit road has been one of those things. Caution flag has come out here at the racetrack. Doug Neal, the 78 machine, has gone around. Wow, let's see what's happened here to Doug Neal here. This is the first caution flag of the night, being pushed by the 07 machine. Brad Kirby off into the corner, and oh man, those bumpers locked together, and all of a sudden, the 78's a Beyblade.
Oh man, that was a really hard hit. I think he net-coded through one of those drivers at least, and that might have to be a tow, which could put him several laps down if he's unable to make it back to pit road. Unfortunately. Yeah,
and there's that bumper grab, and yeah, just whipped around. That is vicious.
That was a hard hit. Very lucky for the drivers behind to kind of net code through that and not actually get any damage as far as we can see, because that could have been a lot worse than it was. But again, I think this is just like before. It's a case of two drivers going for the same real estate. You can see he's trying to go up high, maybe get that side draft, and then ever so slightly just drifts up a little bit more than what the car behind was expecting, and they just come together. And then, of course, that outside safer barrier immediately grabbing that car and throwing it around like a Beyblade. And man, that was a close call.
Yeah, so that will be the first caution flag here tonight at Daytona International Speedway. Folks, we want to thank you for joining us in the chat here tonight. We do have multiple people joining us here tonight. JT Poole in the chat, Christy Woodard in the chat as well. William Kerwin in the chat. Will, hope all is well with you. Hopefully you can kick back, relax, and enjoy the show right here on 3 Wide TV tonight instead of being up alongside me in the booth here tonight. Steven Doziak. He's out there on the racetrack, but he's also there in the chat. Doze, are you getting bored out there or something? I'll tell you what. That number 55 machine, total nonstop racing machine, out there on the racetrack, is now coming down pit road with a whole bunch of other drivers. This will be the first set of pit stops tonight, Andre.
Yeah, like you mentioned, they were closing in on their pit window, I guess, right before that caution had come out. So perfect opportunity to come down, get serviced, get your fuel, get your tires, and hopefully these guys can all have routine stops, no overshooting their stalls, no speeding. And I got to think this is kind of a relief for a few of these drivers, because the pit road entry under green at Daytona can definitely be tough. You're going down from 190 mile an hour down to just, I believe, 70 is the pit road speed limit here. And to do it without locking up the tires and not getting passed by the cars behind you, it is a tough feat. So any pitting they can get done under yellow is probably a load off their mind.
Yeah, I'm sure it will be. And, we've seen the past couple of weeks here in this particular series really come down to getting on and off pit road nice and neatly. Especially when you got green flag pit stops at a super speedway, your margin for error is slim to none because these race cars are going at a football field a second. I mean, they're absolutely booking it here around Daytona International Speedway. So if you mess up getting to pit road, or you mess up getting in your pit box, or you decide to take tires when you shouldn't be taking tires, you have just a different strategy than someone else, it might not work out in your favor, and you can end up lose a lot of track position in quite a hurry here, as we are not a whole lot of laps away from the halfway mark here in tonight's race here in the Taz Racing Customs Superspeedway Series. Big shout out to Threat Level Midnight for jumping on board and sponsoring tonight's race. Andre Grandbush alongside me in the booth here for the first time this season. And Andre, great to have you up here, and I've been enjoying what I've been seeing out there on the racetrack.
Absolutely. Thanks again for having me. Like I said, always happy to help. And I'm with you, man. This race has been pretty exciting. Going into this race, I was wondering what the patience level was going to be, how much battling were we going to see early on, and I think the answer is quite a bit. A lot of battling. I don't want to say very little patience, but I would say a lot of aggression to try to get those track positions, try to get up towards the front, and it's been quite the show. And going back to what you were saying earlier about pitting and just how fast it is, another thing about pitting under green at this track that we're probably going to see, I would imagine we're going to have at least one green flag stop, is that at these plate tracks you have the added stress of having to make sure that you pit with a group. Because if you come out alone and you don't have anybody to draft with, you're going to be going 12 miles an hour or more slower than anybody else that has a draft partner. So you got to make sure that not only are you pitting and doing everything properly, but you're doing it in a pack with a bunch of other drivers. Otherwise, you will pay the price. So definitely a tough situation, and we're going to see probably some of that as the lights are off on the pace car, and we're getting ready to go green very shortly. Jason Gracias was able to keep the lead through that pit cycle, no positions lost. So that number 1 car rolling off ahead of everybody else. The number 20 car alongside him, Andrew Himmelman, he's been running up front pretty much the entire race. Hasn't led any laps yet. But with that front row starting position, we saw the outside kind of get a run early on that first stint of racing there. So maybe the number 20 Himmelman trying to make something happen like that.
Yeah, definitely. We saw that lunge made by Jason Gracias to take away the race lead right there at the beginning of the race from Jeffrey Vickery in the Threat Level Midnight Chevrolet. Will we see something similar? We'll just have to wait and see. Pace car on pit road, green flag back in the air. We're back racing at Daytona on lap number 19 here tonight of the 55. Make that lap number 20 of the 55 that we have scheduled around this 2.5 mile famed racetrack, the World Center of Racing, as Daytona has come to be termed. Jason Gracias already out to a jump.
Contact, 47.
Yep, the 47. Oh boy, this is the big one at Daytona. They continue to pile in. The Evan Gilbert gets involved. The 3 gets involved. My, oh my, this is going to be one to break down. Another car back there. Man, they're still barely scooting through. Let's see if we can figure out what happened here on the 3-wide TV replay. But I think it all happened between the 47 and the 51, I think, Andre.
That's what I saw. It looked like the 47 just kind of came down the track a little bit too much as the 51 was actually coming up. So they kind of came into each other there. Again, just 2 cars going for the same real estate. What the unfortunate part is that they started to spin back up the track, which is what you never want to see at a plate track. And they just get everybody collected from there. You can see the number 18 had nowhere to go. He's getting collected. Looks like the 47 was hit by a number of cars up on that top lane. And even the drivers that were scrambling to the bottom to try to avoid it, even they weren't safe because there were cars wrecking down there as well. As the 28's going to slide towards that inside wall. The number 3 that you had mentioned, he was involved. Although it looks like he managed to escape without too much damage. Cars behind him, though, not quite as lucky.
Yeah, somehow, some way, the number 3 machine was able to scoot through quite nicely, and as well as I think the number 91 of John Doble was able to slot his way through that. In fact, let's see if we can go back and see what happened to the number 91 machine of John Doble. I think it'll be good to ride on board with him here to see what all went down. And, well, I don't know what just happened to my view, unfortunately. Let's see if we can figure out what all just happened there. Some technical gremlin happened here up in the 3-wide TV booth. We'll get you that replayed, fired up here, and oh, I know what happened. I know why John Doble was able to get through that, because he had connection issues. Watch this. There's the wreck happening, and all of a sudden, poof, John Doble just disappears, and so that was the technical gremlin, was the fact that there was a missing segment of replay. Sometimes iRacing doesn't like that, but Doble, once he did come back to Earth, he did a good job of slotting his way through that mess.
There are very few instances where the safer bet is to lag out of the race momentarily. That was one of the few. I think he really lucked out with that minor blink there. He was able to avoid the initial chaos, and then once he came back, like you said, he was able to just kind of skate on through there and no issues. So quite impressive. As we go on another onboard perspective, you can see just chaos breaking out in front of him. And man, what a close call. And another one right there. Man, I'm going to need some blood pressure medication after watching that one.
Yeah, that was Brian Bradley. I think that's worth watching, not only on board, but that's worth watching from just the TV cams right here. Look at him, gets on the brake, smoke everywhere. There goes the 18 Kyle Lewis back up the racetrack, somehow able to get his way through. It looks like Shane Ledoux in the number 12 machine was able to get through relatively unscathed, and one of the threat level midnight machines as well. But a lot of these cars are going to come down pit road and use their fast repair. Unfortunately, though, a couple aren't so lucky. One of those drivers is actually the number 78 machine of Doug Neal. Remember, Neal was involved in an accident there not too long ago to bring out the first caution flag here tonight. And it appears that the number 78 machine is on pit road. I don't think he will be going any further here tonight, unfortunately, in the number 78 SIMBOX machine. Sean Kostritza in the 46 sits on pit road, as does the 42 of Evan Burke. Those two cars will go a lap down. I was just about to say, Andre, that we actually had gotten all the cars back on the lead lap for that last restart, but it doesn't look like that's going to be the case for this particular restart, as the pace car lights have turned off.
Yeah, it was not meant to be, unfortunately. The big one broke out not long after that restart. I can also confirm that the number 51, Paul Bilson, he had to take a tow. So he did have a fast repair left in the bank, but I believe he's going to lose some time having to take that tow. We'll see how that plays out for him. But yeah, lights are off on the pace car. These drivers are going to be making their way to the line. And right now, that just means that the intensity level and the threat level has gone up. I mean, for a lot of these guys, they no longer have that fast repair to fall back on. If they wreck again, that's it. So I think we're going to see maybe a little bit more patience, maybe a little bit more single file or at least that's what I would do as a driver, but we'll see exactly how they choose to play this strategy and what they're going to do, as looks like the number 20 car is not going to get the front row starting position this time. Now, Colin Ulrey is going to be up on the front row alongside the number 1, who has yet to relinquish the lead after taking it early on in the race. Inside of row 2, you got Ben Adams. Haven't said too much about him in that number 5 car, but he's been inching his way towards the front all night long. Now got himself a pretty stable position. They are approaching that start-finish line quickly as the pace car is about to make that hard left turn.
Yeah, there goes that hard left turn, pretty much right on cue, and we'll see if the flagman can bring out the green flag right on cue. There it is. We're back racing at Daytona. Man, don't you just love when those things work out just so perfectly? But that number 1 machine, Gracias, leads us up at the front of the field. Colin Ullery in the 62 machine, however, left out to dry all by himself. No one helping him right now.
And on that restart, the number 5 that I had mentioned, he spun his tires, and the 21 had nowhere to go. He got into his rear bumper and lost several positions in all of that chaos. Now the 91 hard into the wall. He's going to make contact with the passenger door of the 21. More wrecking alongside him is another close call for the 21. That is going to be our fourth caution of the night.
Yeah, the 28 machine of Evan Gilbert looks like the one that's a little bit worse for wear on this one. Let's see what happened coming out of turn number 2. Put it back into the 3-wide TV slow motion camera, and I think is that John Doble that got up into the outside wall, came down, hit the 21 of Vickery, hip checked him, and when it was all said and done, Evan Gilbert right there, Steven Doziak in the 55 piling in, a couple of more torn up race cars.
Yeah, and a few of those guys, I believe, are going to be done for the night. That 28 car had a hard hit in that prior caution, used his faster pair, and now involved in this one as well. That could very well spell the end of his night, unfortunately. Yeah, it just looks like he got a little bit, I don't want to say tight, but I think he just drifted up the corner a little bit. Didn't expect the wall to sneak up on him like that, and unfortunately it was just a high-stakes match of ping-pong ball from there. He's got a little bit of bouncing between the cars, and the 28, I think, getting the worst of it.
Let's see if we can go on board here with Jeff Wyatt, the old guy racing machine. Sees a bunch of smoke, drops down there to the bottom side of the racetrack. There's the number 28 machine. He has to go rally crossing down through the grass to try and avoid it. We'll get one more look on board with the number 55 machine. This is Steven Doziak, who was in the chat just a little while ago. I'm sure he will have something to say about this one here in the chat. All of a sudden, there's a race car right in front of you there, Andre.
Yeah, and that is not a good place to hit either. That was right on the radiator. Probably got some engine damage out of that. You can see the front of the car deformed a lot when he made that hit. There's nowhere to go, like you said. I mean, there was no input he could have made into that car that would have made a difference there, unfortunately, for the driver out of Sawyersville, PA. Just use fast repair. Well, he's going to have to use that fast repair to its best capabilities, try to get back up towards the front, and hopefully avoid a potential another big one. I mean, we got a few cars out of the race that have used their fast repairs, but we do still have quite a field out there. And if this aggression level stays this high, man, this race could be quite intense from here on out. I mean, we're approaching the halfway point within the next couple laps. Laps are winding down, and these drivers were getting Nancy back on lap 10, let alone halfway through the show.
Yeah, let's highlight who we got on pit road right now. Jeffrey Vickery, threat level midnight machine, your pole sitter here tonight. He's just been on and off pit road. His teammate there, Shane Ledoux, coming on and off pit road as well. Evan Gilbert, the number 28 machine, we saw all that damage on that race car. He's sitting in his pit box right now. Sean Kostritza in his machine also just now coming out onto the racetrack off pit road. So we had a couple of takers right there. I don't think they're quite in that window yet of making it to the end of the race. However, we're probably not all too far away from when that window will indeed open for what will be the final pit stop here tonight at Daytona International Speedway. I want to thank every one of you for joining us here on 3-Wide TV and in the chat. Steven Doziak says RIP. There you go. Told you Steven would have something to say. Shane K says, at night with the lights, that wall is deceptive. It can reach out and grab you, especially with some of the shadows in iRacing Andre. I know that's one area that iRacing has extremely improved on over the years. I remember when iRacing first added night racing back in the day, it was a little bit sketchy at times, but sometimes you can get those shadows that, particularly on certain racetracks that are a little bit darker, some of the short tracks I'm thinking of, like Five Flags, where it feels like you're almost racing in the darkness, but you can see those shadows, and sometimes when you're going at speed, they can kind of play havoc with you.
Absolutely. And not only can the lighting make that wall a little bit deceptive, but remember earlier what I mentioned about watching that car in front of you and sort of getting tunnel visioned on what they're doing. It's very easy to just really tunnel vision in on that car in front of you, watch their movements, and almost pay more attention to them than you are your own car. And if, in that case, it's very easy to drift up just a little bit too far and tag the wall. God knows I've done that probably more times than I've made clean laps at Daytona. So very easy thing to do. And with the way the safer barrier works in iRacing, it's a funny thing. Sometimes you tag that wall and you sort of get glued to it, and then sometimes it just shoots you down to the left, like what we saw in that last caution there. So unfortunate racing event there. I mean, but again, I don't think there's anybody to really truly blame. Just a product of this plate racing and how focused these drivers get on the cars around them as opposed to the environment.
Yeah, so we'll see all these drivers coming to that green flag this time, but for right now, Jason Gracias will again lead the field back to green flag here. But now we see Andrew Himmelman in the number 20 machine, SimShots Chevrolet alongside him. There goes the pace car onto pit road. What can Himmelman do? We didn't see a great restart last time by that high line. Maybe we will this time. We all get rolling throughout the field, all clean and green. Looks like Himmelman just going to jump into that inside groove right in front of Brian Bradley there in the 16, who was able to sneak his way through, not the last accident, but the one just before that, brilliantly in the 16 Toyota. But now they're side by side back behind them, and Ben Mashburn in the 23. Now all of a sudden he is the driver that's stuck up all alone by himself on the high line, as we're back on the backstretch where things started to get really wrecky last time we were down at under green flag conditions.
Yeah, Himmelman was the number 23's best shot at maintaining his track position. If they had worked together, maybe the 23 would have been able to stay up front. But once that 20 car made the decision to dive down low, which I think ultimately he had to, I think Himmelman had to dive low if he wanted to protect his own track position. That left the 23 with nobody to work with, and he just got sent down the sucker hole. He's currently running, I believe, P9 side by side with, it looks to be Nathan Maurer. Behind them, you got the previous race leader, the number 47, Chris Darling, who I believe he led a lap this race. Maybe I'm wrong, but he was running up front. I know that much. He fell back a bit, being involved in a couple of those incidents, but he's got a clean car now. And going through this field, Peter, looks like there's a few of these cars that either used their quick repair before being involved in that or opted not to use it in that caution for another reason. But looks like the number 3, James Woodward, he has some damage to the rear end of that car, as well as, I believe that's the number 86 machine, Jeff Wyatt. He's got quite a bit of rear end damage. So the 21 car, I'm actually not entirely sure if he used a fast repair, and it's just not showing up for me on my end. But the right side of that car does have a few scrapes on it for me, so maybe he decided to save that for a later date. He didn't get too much of an impact in that, although it was the initial contact that started that caution. Didn't seem like it damages the car too much, so maybe saving that quick repair for later.
Yeah, we go on board here with the Total Nonstop Racing number 55 machine of Steven Doziak. He's got an interesting view out front as we go pretty much single file now through a majority of the field. We see the only side-by-side action right in front of the number 55 machine. That is, or was, the number 47 machine of Chris Darling back there. But now all of a sudden we go single file once again, so we'll see how it all shakes out. But Andrew Himmelman slotted into second right behind Jason Gracias. You see bottom of your screen down there, almost 200 miles an hour going off in turn number 1 that time.
And that is the power of the draft. If these guys were on their own, they would barely be cracking about 182, 184 going into the corner. But with that draft, man, they can get up to nearly 200 miles an hour. And looks like a couple of cars trying to get up high, maybe make something happen there, get some guys to join them, but then having to dive back down. I believe that was the number 91 car, John Doble, tried to get something happening. Is the leader getting a big push from the number 20, Getting a little bit squirrely there. It was kind of scary. But yeah, you mentioned this single file racing, and I think for a lot of these guys, Peter, this is the only option. A lot of these guys have used up their fast repair, maybe even have a little bit of damage after that fast repair, and they want to make it to the end. And I think if you want to make it to the end, your best bet is to single file out, be patient, and wait it out to the last few laps. And then at that point, it's go time. That's when you start making your moves.
And I think the big question is going to be something happened further back in the pack.
Yeah, something a little bit further back in the pack. I believe that was a green car. Didn't quite catch the number, but he got tagged in the rear bumper. It might have been the number 12. He got shot down to the apron, came back up on the track. It was a great recovery, but that was a scary moment for those guys further back.
Let's see if we can figure out what happened right here. Racing with the number 47 machine of Chris Darling right there. And oof, man, things getting really slicey and dicey between those drivers. And I'll tell you what, Andre, oof, man, there was contact back behind them as well, it looked like, going off into the corner. Let's see if we can get one more look at what might have happened back there. I think that was Steven Doziak who might have just ended up going down below the yellow line right there with the 46 machine. And oh man, that's a little bit of Rubbins racing at Daytona. You see that at the short tracks, not at Daytona though, as they get all back rolling and we stay green.
Some fantastic driving by both those guys to be able to recover that and keep it pointed in the right direction and not even really lose that much speed. That was a fantastic recovery, so props to them, able to keep this thing under green. And looking back towards the front of the field, I know a lot of the fun part has been towards the back of the field, but up front we do have a battle brewing as Jason Gracias, last week's race winner, is continuing to lead the way, but not unchallenged. I'm noticing that 21 is kind of peeking his nose up high every now and again, and I'm not sure if he's trying to maybe get that engine cooled down or he's testing the waters to see who will join him on the high side and maybe make a move up there, get a train going, and see if maybe they can emulate that fantastic pass that the number 1 made earlier on in the race. Because once he made that pass, nobody has been able to overtake Jason Gracias. He has been up there leading the way the entire time. This league does have bonus points for most laps led as well as leading a single lap. So I'm sure a lot of these drivers behind Gracias maybe wanting to get a run, get the nose in on the start-finish line, just grab that bonus point, especially if a few of these guys have gotten that 12 incident point limit for the 1-point penalty. Definitely want to maybe lead a lap, get that point back.
Yeah, definitely is something that these drivers will have in mind because it's actually really funny. After race number 1, we actually had a good number of drivers, Andre, with negative points because of that incident point limit. So these drivers want to pick up as many points as they can because they want to walk away as a series champion. The driver that they're going to have to knock off the pedestal, however, though, is the number 62 of Colin Ullery. 9 starts this season, so he hasn't even started all 10 races coming into tonight. But he has 2 wins to his name, 6 top 5s, and 8 top 10s. Mr. Consistency in this series has been Colin Ullery, and he also has the most bonus points out of anyone in the championship. So for Ullery, he comes into tonight with a 27-point advantage. And I'll tell you what, Andre, if you look at the point standings, or the point scorings, 27 points is a magic number. Why? The race winner gets 26 points minus the bonus points. So what the 62 of Ullery wants to do, he really wants to finish right where he is here tonight in that number 62 machine, because if he can finish right there, he will pick up points on second place Chris Darling in points. He will also, I'm sure he's going to try and get some bonus points if he can and minimize any type of incident points out there on the racetrack. But at least for right now, that number 62 is exactly where he needs to be to try and lock up the championship going into next week's race at Talladega Superspeedway.
Absolutely. And you talked about consistency, and that's definitely what I've seen out of him this race. I'm new to the league, my first broadcast with everybody, but I've been keeping an eye on these guys driving, and Colin has done a fantastic job keeping his nose clean, staying out of trouble, and running up towards the front while not quite leading any laps tonight, but still being right there in the fray of it. So right now, maybe a bit of a scary position to be kind of in the middle. You got a lot of cars behind, a lot of cars in front. But so far, he has made it work. The young driver, 16 years old, and he is doing his best to keep that car in line. And I'm noticing this front pack is a lot more stable than the second pack. Right now, you look back a little bit and you see that sort of caterpillar effect that I talked about. A lot of cars going up and down, weaving. And I think right now the last thing these drivers want to see is another yellow flag. I think these guys are going to want to see this race green through to the end, maybe allow for some green flag stops. And hey, look at that, Peter. Speaking of green, whoa, no! No! The number 5 car.
Yeah, that's Ben Adams who's turned around there on entry to pit road. We'll get another look at that one right here. I think everyone else was able to get down to pit road speed nice and neatly. Look at them locking up their tires, but oh, geez, he nailed that wall that sticks out right there. That is the worst place to hit, Andre. I mean, pretty much anywhere else, you probably won't have as much damage. Hopefully, Adams will have a faster pair, but you can see all of that track position he was losing from pretty much everyone else is the cars that have already been on and now coming off pit road, like Jason Gracias, who was your race leader. He won the race off pit road, so to speak, but we still have a gaggle of cars out there right now yet to pit, led by Brad Kirby in the 07.
Definitely a good call by Kirby. He's been running a little bit further back in the pack, but now with this strategy of staying out, he's going to be able to lead a lap, grab a bonus point, and be able to make his way down pit road, hopefully cleanly with the rest of that pack back there. But yeah, going back to that pit stop there for that number 5, talk about a freak accident. You know, there's a 4-foot strip of track where you don't want to have that happen, and it just so happened to he locked up the tires right there where that break in the wall is. So really unfortunate. Not only got some damage on that machine, but lost a lot of time. That was not a yellow flag pitting scenario. This was under green. There are still cars up to speed on track. And the amount of time that he lost having to put that thing in reverse and get it straightened out is pretty much immeasurable at this point. So he's going to be hoping for a caution, I'm sure. But these guys, I think they're happy with the way the race is going. They're staying out. They're trying to lead some laps. And everything seems to be going their way at the moment.
And now here's going to be the big question. This front group of cars, Brad Kirby, Dominic Provite, James Woodard, and John Doble, 4 cars right now. I mean, you can count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, Andre. The second pack of cars that have already pitted, Jason Gracias there with the number 20 of Andrew Himmelman, the 971 and Nathan Maurer, 3 cars. If numbers matter, and they typically do on super speedways, that front group right now, they're going to elect to stay out as long as they can. They have been... by my math, they've been out there on the racetrack for a decent amount of time. Let's see if we can bring up the graphic for you guys. And you can see right there in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, Kirby's been out there now for 24 laps. So he's been clicking off these laps pretty quickly. Dominic Provide and Woodard there in third. They actually came down pit road 20 laps ago, and John Doble came down pit road 16 laps ago or so. So some mixed strategies in that front group, but they're all together right now, and I'm sure that's the way they want to stay until Kirby in the 07 absolutely has to come down pit road, which we would think would be fairly soon, and making his final pit stop. But he will also, Andre, need to take on less fuel than some of those other cars by staying out this long.
Yeah, that is one thing I was going to mention. I'm not entirely sure what this league's fuel cell size is exactly, but I would imagine with how long they've stayed out and how much fuel they've saved being in the draft with one another, at least the 3 cars behind Kirby, they might be able to get away with taking a little bit less fuel and maybe 2 tires, since tires aren't too pertinent at a track like Daytona. And if they were able to do that, that would immediately close that gap up that they had prior to the pit sequence there, to that field ahead of them. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out, because right now, if I was a betting man, I think this pack right here is kind of playing their cards right.
Yeah, so you see all of those drivers running together right now. Kirby, Provite, Woodard, and Doble with those cars racing hard with one another, but staying in line, working together. And then you have to go back a little ways, back to this 3-car gaggle between Shane Ledoux, Jeffrey Vickery. Those are 2 teammates, but in between them is Sean Kostritza in the number 46 machine. So these 3 cars out there. And then back behind them, you got Woody Woodard all by himself in the number 8 machine. And then Jason Gracias, who was your race leader when he elected to come down pit road. This is the battle right now for 8th out there on the racetrack between Gracias, Himmelman, and Nathan Maurer. They're going to run together halfway down the backstretch. They'll see if they can pick up the number 18 machine of Kyle Lewis there. That might be very beneficial to this group of cars to pick up one extra machine to just balance out the numbers with that front pack led by Brad Kirby. But for right now, Kirby continues to lead Revite, Woodard, and Doble with coming to 10 laps to go.
Absolutely. The more the merrier. And if they can pick up more cars, try to, like you said, sort of negate the advantage that front pack has with more cars in their group there, then that would be beneficial to them. But looks like now Kirby is going to come down pit road as they lock him up. Contact coming down pit road, nearly spinning. I believe that was Woodward. I could be wrong. I might be looking at this wrong, but that was a close call. Not sure if anybody sped. It looked like they got it woed up before their stop, and Kirby was able to get out ahead of that bit of a mess there. He came down pit road no problem. But that was number 3. I'm sorry, it was the number 3 car. Yeah, that was Woodward. What a situation there. That could have been disastrous.
Now, one car elected to stay out in all that madness. That's John Doble. There is the number 91 Ford Mustang. So with now just 10 laps to go, do we think Doble has 10 laps of fuel left? No, he does not. He is coming down pit road right now. Got to get down to pit road speed right there before that yellow Coney looked a little bit hot getting to pit road. We'll see if there is any type of pit road speeding penalty or anything like that. But he's going to go, he missed his pit box as well. So that is going to not help out the number 91. But he elected to stay out that one extra lap, got enough fuel down and away, so no speeding penalty on him. But the big question is going to be, how does Jason Gracias shake out with a couple of those other cars that were just on pit road? And I think we have our answer. He's miles ahead of the 07 of Brad Kirby. That's a bit surprising to me because of the numbers game, but Kirby here currently being scored in the 10th position. He's passing some of the other cars just now getting off pit road. Gracias once again cycles to the race lead with now just about 9 laps to go.
Yeah, I'm with you, Peter. I really thought that strategy was going to work out a little bit better for Kirby. I thought maybe he was going to be able to take a little bit less gas, but maybe these drivers are doing their calculations and finding out that, yeah, we got to take a full tank, even if we stayed out a few laps longer. Maybe it didn't really make much of a difference how long they stayed out. But we got a situation breaking out, I believe. Is that Doble?
It is.
On the apron.
It is the number 91 machine of John Doble just coming off pit road. We'll see if he had an issue down there on the flat portion of the racetrack. Gets to the blue line, merges up on the racetrack, and oh man, that might have been a little bit of net code. And the 91 goes around, but he's off the racing surface there, Andre, not bringing out a caution.
Yeah, that's unfortunate for Doble. When that happens, you want that yellow flag to fly to get you back up with the field, because you have to recover under green, and you're losing a lot of time. And he does have quite a bit of damage from that. I think he hit the nail on the head. That was a little bit of net code. It's hard to tell when there's cars coming up behind you as you merge out of turn 2. Because of the way that the corner is angled, you look in your mirror and you think, oh yeah, I'm fine to come up and merge. And then, second and a half later, you got 3 cars right there behind you that you didn't see. And it's a very, very easy mistake to make. And unfortunately, I don't think he was expecting anybody to be 3 wide as he merged, and made a good evasive maneuver. And if it wasn't for netcode, he would have avoided them. You saw him move back down towards the apron, and it was a good move by him. But man, the simulator said, nope, not today.
It definitely said not today, and we're kind of left with a 3-horse race up in the front of the field. But as I say that, caution flag is out. The 51 machine of Paul Bilson has gone around. Same thing with Steven Doziak. He'd already used his fast repair. Let's sort out and see what happened here. Right behind Colin Ullery, your points leader here. There's Ben Mashburn, the 23 machine. The 51's, the 51 gets into the back of the 23, comes up the racetrack. 23 trying to save it. There's the contact. And unfortunately for the 55 machine of Doziak, spinning hard into the inside wall. We know he's already used the fast repair. There comes the 23 of Mashburn like a pinball across the racetrack.
Yeah, that was a violent crash there, and for Dozniak, that was just an unfortunate case of catching that inside wall where it jets out a little bit more. And taking a look at this again, it just seems like the 23 was getting too much of a push, wasn't really expecting it. And unfortunately, the car behind him never really lifted. Even after he started to get unsettled, he seemed to have stayed in the throttle. And then more chaos breaking out there as the 55 has nowhere to go. And man, I believe that's Kirby who's going to split the middle between them. Just right in the middle. But yeah, that was just a case of don't push in the corners. You know, you hear it all the time, do not bump draft in the corners, and that's why.
So I was thinking that we were coming to 5 laps to go, and it looked like it was a 3-horse race. We'll throw that out the window. Look at that number 23 machine doing all he can to stay off the inside wall. Ben Mashburn here doing all he can. Definitely the driver not at fault in that one. So he's going to go to his pit box. We'll see if there's going to be a fast repair used on the DoorDash number 23 machine. Definitely doesn't look like it. But up at the front of the field, it will be Jason Gracias in the number 1 machine who will be leading at the 5 lap to go bell. But getting word that Ben Mashburn on pit road has already fallen a lap down. Same thing with Paul Bilson, Steven Doziak falling a lap down to join Sean Kostritza, Woody Woodard, and Kyle Lewis in the lap down brigade. Now, the good news for the number 18 machine is Kyle Lewis will be your lucky dog here. Getting back on the lead lap with just a couple laps to go, trying to make up as many positions as he can. I'll tell you what, with the action we've seen here tonight, Andre, green-white checkers, the big one, these types of things are not out of the picture with how racy it's been.
You mentioned how it was a 3-car show before this caution, and now, I mean, you look back all the way towards 10th, 11th place, it's any of those guys' game. Anybody that's still in this pack that is still having 4 tires underneath them, they got a shot to win this race because there is no telling what's going to happen on this restart. There has been a lot of aggression, a lot of hard racing, a lot of drivers trying to get every inch that they can, and that is only going to be amplified when that green flag waves and there's only a couple laps remaining. So Kyle Lewis on the radio, he's actually going to take another pit stop to resolve some of the damage, I believe, as he takes his lucky dog. So maybe going to lose a little bit of time there. I'm not sure how long he has to fix that damage. He's going to have to try and beat the pace car out of pit road. But yeah, like you said, Peter, it's going to be a crazy show with this restart.
Good news is it doesn't look like that number 18 machine is all too worse for wear. Yes, there is some crinkling of the front bumper, but he's going to come down pit road and hopefully get as much of that damage repaired as possible. Meanwhile, look up at the front of the field. Jason Gracias is starting to watch the field double up back behind him because the pace car lights are off. And how about a 3-lap shootout at the World Center of Racing right here on 3 Wide TV here tonight? Definitely going to be a good one. Thanks for everyone joining us here in the chat for this 55-lap feature race. Maybe it'll be a little bit more than 55 laps. We'll see whether or not we can get any green-white checkers here tonight. William Kerwin saying they still have a few laps till they get to the checkered flag. Absolutely. William also saying he bets 2 green-white checkers. Mike Floppy Telly are in the chat saying, I don't know. You da bez dos. There you go. You the best. Number 55. But unfortunately, Doziak 1 lap down. He's still out there on the racetrack, but looking a little bit worse for wear is Steven Doziak. Doziak saying, I hate this sim. Definitely, it can be your best friend at times and your enemy at others. That's, I think, summing up iRacing in a nutshell.
I'm looking at row 3 right now. Row 3 has a couple of heavy hitters. You got Chris Darling, who we know has a fast car. He found his way towards the back of the pack, now able to get all the way up into row 3 for this restart, as well as Kirby. He's up here in row 3. This is the furthest up the grid he's been since he had to pit. And like I said, anybody left in this field, they have a shot. But being this close to the front of the field, these guys are definitely going to be hungry to try to take that lead as the pace car makes that hard left turn to the pits. And when is the number 1 going to start him? Right now. He got on that throttle as soon as he could. And a big jump to that number 1, Jason Gracias, 2 wide behind him.
And you see that two-wide battle right now, Nathan Maurer and Andrew Himmelman. We didn't get to see Himmelman make that jump down to the bottom side like he has in the past on these restarts. Here comes Nathan Maurer. You see those cars closing in on your race leader, Gracias. Where does Gracias go? Does he go to the high side? Does he stay on the bottom side? He just went up to the top side, then says, I'm going to drop back down to the bottom. Jeffrey Vickery there going below the yellow line. You're not supposed to do that. We're coming to 2 laps to go, Andre.
It was a huge block, but it was definitely a good move as he was able to maintain the lead. Got a huge shot from Nathan Maurer. He was able to kind of get a bit of separation to the car behind as they are approaching lap 54 as they cross the line. Single file for the top 4. Actually, all the way back to the top 6 is going to be single file right now. Right now, looks like Jason Kirby is getting a big run with the draft. He's going to make himself a part of this front pack as they look like they're trying to make some moves down low, up high. It's like Maurer is looking all over the track, trying to figure out where he can make this move.
Yeah, and unfortunately for Andrew, contact with Andrew Himmelman. I just had to open my mouth, and they're wrecking back behind Himmelman on his roof back there. My, oh my, the number 20 machine is all tore up. Do we have a caution flag? We do have caution flag. Caution flag finally in the air here at Daytona. My goodness, that was absolutely chaotic. Andrew Himmelman, let's see if we can slow this one down. Go on board with him. Tries to jump up to the high side, and there's just a little bit of contact into the outside wall. Gets up on 2 wheels, and it's pretty much on from there, Andre.
Pure chaos breaking out. I was watching Jeff Wyatt as that broke out, and he had a really close call there. Unfortunately, he got sent down into the apron, merged back up on the track mere inches from another car's bumper. But he was able to avoid all of that. As you can see, there's a couple of the cars that were involved. And we were only 2 corners away from making this race official, getting that white flag. And unfortunately, it happened here. You can see hard into the outside wall, getting airborne, then upside down. Nobody had anywhere to go. The 07, I believe, heavily involved in that. The 12 car making some good evasive maneuvers. No hood to his name on that car, but able to avoid some of it.
Yeah, no, man, I'll tell you what, one of the drivers involved, the points leader, the 62 of Colin Ullery, got in that one. All of a sudden, with Chris Darling in third, the table has been flipped on the story we mentioned earlier in the race. Now, all of a sudden, the 62 of Ullery is not in the spot that he wants to be in, and it's looking like our championship battle will live on next week at Talladega.
Absolutely, and he's going to make his way down pit road, Colin Ullery in that 62. He's going to get some of that damage fixed up. Looking at his car, I think a lot of that damage is centralized on the rear end. Looks like both those taillights lifted up, but he had a fast repair in the bank. That car was pretty much fixed up immediately. He's going to get back out on track. That could be Colin's saving grace right there, being one of the few drivers that had that left.
Yeah, Brian Bradley in front of him as well. Looks like he has used the fast repair at the GTR Simulator Toyota. So Bradley currently being scored in the 10th position as we run. The scoring ticker on the left-hand side of your screen, it'll take a little bit for it to update here because we are going into overtime here on 3 Wide TV. Just trying to see who our lucky dog appears to be under this particular caution, and whether or not we'll even have one because of how everything.
It was Woodard. I'm sorry, Woody Woodward is going to go around, I believe.
Okay, so that number 8 machine will be back on the lead lap. That's good news for the Woodard fans in the chat here tonight. Woody being scored in 14th, and James currently being scored in 9th in the number 3 machine. There is that number 3 just on the back portion of the top 10. I know Tana Himmelman will be disappointed in the chat with that contact that happened right there. Andrew all of a sudden went from second, now being scored 14th. He was second on that last restart, Andre, and how things can change very rapidly here at the 2.5 mile super speedway and at Daytona Beach.
That's how these tracks are, man. The race looks one way 1 second, and then a split second later, the entire picture has changed, like we saw for Colin Ulrey in that 62, as well as the driver of that number 20, Andrew Himmelman, like you said. He was on the front row. He had a great starting position. Things were looking pretty good. And then in the blink of an eye, chaos breaks out, and now these drivers are left with the tall order of trying to come from the back to make up as many positions as they possibly can with only a couple laps remaining. So Colin Ulrey is going to be restarting at P11, and that number 20, like you said, he's restarting P14. So quite a few cars to try to get around if they're going to salvage any points at the end of this race.
Yeah, that is absolutely for sure. Ulrey in that number 62 machine will be coming from 11th. Chris Darling, however, he's where he needs to be. Really, if I'm Chris Darling, if I'm thinking about, eyes on the prize here, Andre, do you think you even risk anything here to try and get the win? Because you want to keep that championship hunt alive next week.
On paper, you think, yeah, it'd probably be best to play it safe and just finish where you can and take the points that you can. But then you get in the car and you think, man, there's only a few laps left and I could win this thing. And I guarantee you that's what these drivers are thinking about, especially the ones at front of the field, like that number 47. He's looking at that number 1, Jason Gracias, who's led so many laps, and he's thinking, I know I can get around this guy. I just got to get the opportunity. And he's going to have that chance to try to make something happen. As the lights are off on the pace car, it's making that hard left turn, and we're going to try it again. Cars have been stacked up. What's the number 1 do? He's getting on the throttle real early again. But this time, not as big of a jump on the outside lane. Nathan Maurer is actually going to get a great run, staying door to door, and now with the advantage on the outside lane.
That outside line is holding strong for right now. The 971 Nathan Maurer is lightning quick in the SIMBOX Chevrolet, but all of a sudden, Jason Gracias just shot out of a cannon in the number 1 Total Nonstop Racing machine. He gets clear of the 971. We're still side by side down the backstretch, though, for second. Chris Darling in the M&M's Toyota underneath the 971 and Nathan Maurer as they go off into turn number 3. Still side by side, but Maurer starting to slide back. Now can Chris Darling, who was the runner-up last week, can he pull the 1-2 on the number 1 machine? Gracias went to victory lane last week here on 3 Wide TV, but Darling gonna stay to the inside. Look at Maurer, gets a run, getting that side draft. White flag, Andre.
And Maurer came from about 3 rows back. He passed a lot of cars in that high lane, and now he is right behind the leader as they go 2 wide behind him. With everybody battling behind, I think that's going to set the stage for these 2 leaders to duke it out, to see if maybe Nathan Maurer can get the run, but with no help behind him, as the 47 and the 07 start to fall back, it's going to be a tall order as they go into turns 3 and 4.
Nathan Maurer just waiting to try and make a move in the 971 machine. We saw the 1 machine of Gracias with a late move last week, but the gap is growing from the front 2. No one's going to catch the number 1 machine. Gracias goes to victory lane at Daytona. The 971 finishing in second, Darling in third, and my oh my, look who finished 6th position here tonight. Colin Ulrey with some late race moves to get himself back up into the points and try and hold on to that points lead going into next week, the season finale at Talladega Superspeedway. What a great finish here tonight as fireworks go off on the backstretch.
Absolutely. There is a lot to talk about with that race finish. The 47 car had a huge run coming to the line, and I thought for a minute he might get around them both. He gave a huge push to that 917 car, and it didn't quite work out in his favor, but he got a late run there. The 917 had quite a good run, but ultimately that number 1 could not be beat. He was the fastest car on track all night long. He was playing the best defense all night long, and ultimately on that last lap, the defense did not fail him. He was able to take that win, block the runs from behind, and grab the win here at Daytona.
And Jason Gracias going to burn him down here on the front stretch once again. Second race win in a row. And now we're really going to have to figure out where does Jason Gracias figure into the picture for next week's championship finale. Does he have a shot at picking up the season points tally? Because even though he only had 7 starts coming into tonight, 3 less than Chris Darling, Gracias was only 8 points behind Darling and 35 points behind Colin Ullery. So we believe that the hunt for Gracias to pick up the championship is firmly alive here, especially with the unique points distribution that you get here in this particular series. So we got a 3-car battle for the championship next week at Talladega. Should be a good one.
That is going to be a show. If you got 3 cars that are in the points picture at a plate track, that is going to be absolutely exciting. So leading all those laps, that did not hurt the number one at all. Those bonus points definitely coming in clutch there. And really seems like Jason Gracias is just looking to stage a late into the season comeback with these 2 consecutive wins. And man, he seems to be a phenomenal plate track racer. And with the season coming to a close at Talladega, I would be looking out for him.
Now, let's see if we can dial up some post-race interviews for you folks. Getting to talk to some of the people that we got to talk to last week right here on 3 Wide TV. Let's see. I'm trying to figure out where a race winner is. Where is the number 1 machine of Jason Gracia? There he is. We'll get him into the holding pen right here on 3 Wide TV. Let's see if we can dial up tonight's 3rd place finisher, the number 47 machine of Chris Darling. Chris, Peter Short, 3 Wide TV booth. You got a copy?
Hey, what's going on, Peter?
Well, I'll tell you what, great race for you here tonight. Probably the most impressive thing about your race here tonight, your pit stops all worked out well. Able to get that track position there late, and we were kind of wondering if you were going to even try and go for the race win here tonight, because you come into tonight 2nd place in points and with a lot to try and gain on the 62 of Colin Ullery. Talk us through those last few laps.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to get any sort of runs here with this package, but I don't know. I got a run at the end there, and I didn't think I was going to be able to make any passes, so I just kind of tucked back in behind Nate. I don't know, man. It's tough. I mean, I went from the front to the back to the front. I think I went to the back again. It was just a long race, very long race, and a very boring package.
Well, I'll tell you what, there was probably more action here tonight at Daytona than what we've seen over the last couple of weeks. Was there any particular reason for that here tonight? Was it the fact that it was under the lights, maybe a little bit cooler air temperature, a little bit more grip in the racetrack? Any thoughts?
I don't know. It's really tough to say. I gotta imagine that being under the lights has something to do with it. Both times we've been under the lights, the race has been a little bit better. I mean, it's nothing like it used to be, but it's definitely better than racing during the daytime. So maybe that's something to pay attention to for the future.
Well, we're definitely hearing some rumblings about possibly changing car for the next season here in the Taz Racing Customs Superspeedway series. So, maybe something to be mindful of in that as well. But Chris, congratulations on a 3rd place finish here tonight and a shot at winning the title next week at Talladega Superspeedway. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I honestly, when I came into Daytona, I thought I was like 40 some odd points back. I hadn't looked at the points in 2 or 3 weeks. I've just been kind of out here having fun, but about halfway through the race, Colin told me I was only like 20 points behind. So I started, trying a little harder, I guess you would say, at that point. But I don't know. It's going to be tough to beat Colin. He's always up front. He doesn't really make a lot of mistakes on these tracks. So we'll see what happens. I think, where are we at? Talladega next week, I think. So I don't know. It'll be fun. I'm definitely going to give it a shot. And if I can't win it, it's checkers or records for me.
All right. Well, Checkers or Wreckers is definitely going to be an interesting one next week right here on 3 Wide TV. Same place, same time, 8:30 Eastern for the season finale. Like you said, Chris, at Talladega Superspeedway. Before we let you go, any shout-outs?
I want to give a big shout-out to Threat Level Midnight Racing. They stepped up, sponsored the last 2 races. So that's pretty cool. I want to give a shout-out to Taz Racing Customs, throwing a cool diecast on the line. It's just a random draw, but it's a pretty cool deal. Basically, all of our drivers, we've all done a pretty good job all year. It's been pretty fun. So just want to give a shout out to everybody. It was fun there at the end with Jason and Nate. So appreciate their hard racing and move on next week.
All right. Well, Chris, congratulations on tonight's great run there to finish home 3rd. We'll see you next week, fighting for a championship. Best of luck there,
Thanks.
bud. All right, well, that's going to do it for our third place interview. I believe that Andre Grandbush has caught up with tonight's runner-up, Nathan Maurer, in the 971 machine.
Nathan Maurer, you got a copy?
Bo, yes, I do. How you doing, guys?
How you doing? You had a phenomenal run tonight. You got a podium finish. That last restart, man, you were the car that I was watching. You had a great restart on the outside lane. You were able to get that side draft and stay door-to-door with the leader. Walk me through those last couple laps.
Before that last caution, I was telling Jason, I'm just happy staying here in second. I ain't gonna do anything. Then that came back to bite me when that caution came out. Andrew, who started second there on that caution, he's like, "How's that P2 sound now?" And I was scared, but I almost cleared him on that restart, and I redlined almost every gear trying just to get him, and it just didn't happen. I was very close, so I just kept on side drafting. You got to be aggressive now. You got to side draft like crazy now in these cars.
Absolutely. And coming to the line there, you got a huge shot from the number 47, Chris Darling. It almost looked like you were going to lose it, but you made a phenomenal recovery. How scary was that coming to the line?
When in doubt, throttle it out, man. I knew he warned me it was coming. I seen it coming. I just I didn't want to stay high and hope that he was going to stay with me to get around Jason. I just kind of went down the block the low line. If I would have stayed high, he probably just would have shot down below me and took P2.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to another plate track next week in Talladega with your great performance today. How's your outlook going forward?
Hopefully pretty good. It's all about the pit stops now with this crappy package in these cup cars. Started P21, got in a wreck early, and I think I was P9 or P10 there that last green flag pit stop, and came out right behind P2 then. So hopefully pretty good. You got to make everything count on and off pit road now.
You heard it from Nathan. It's going to be all about pit strategy and how well you can get in and out of the pits, and maybe even who you pit with. Pitting with a pack is definitely the way to go. Getting a draft partner so you can exit pretty much at maximum speed. That'll be a benefit. But before we let you go, Nathan, any shout-outs you'd like to make?
The boys here that run this super speedway racing. I was never a super speedway fan. They kind of made it fun. It'd be funner if the cars were a little bit better to drive. Yeah, SIMBOX, my car sponsor. Doug's a great guy. And for you guys up there at 3x TV.
All right. Well, congratulations again on your P2. It looked like some fantastic racing out there, and good luck next week.
Thanks, guys. Hope to talk to you again. Have a good night, guys.
All right, well, that's going to do it for tonight's second place interview with the 971 of Nathan Maurer. Let's see if we can dial up winner for the second week in a row. Jason Gracias joining us right up here in Victory Lane on the 3-Wide TV channel. Well, I'll tell you what, Jason, how'd you do it here again tonight at Daytona?
I kept my foot in it. That's the only thing I can tell you. Just keep your foot in it and hope for the best.
Well, I'll tell you what, you definitely did that here tonight, and on and off pit road right there, with about 20 laps to go, you held station, got on pit road nice and neatly, got off nice and neatly. There was a couple of cars still out there on the racetrack by themselves. Were you concerned about those cars as they were drafting together?
Anytime you're with this package, at least, anytime you come up on lap cars with the way the aero is, if you just get in the wrong line or if they come down and take your air away, you can lose a whole bunch of momentum. But thankfully, we're all spread out. And the lap cars that we came across, like Kyle, at one point was very gracious and gave us the bottom lane. So, and just coming to pit road, I've raced with these guys, Andrew, Chris, Ben, Colin, in multiple leagues in the past. So it's just nice having comfort knowing that if I'm going to pit road, these guys aren't going to rear end me and spin me out. So it's just, it's a lot of give and take and a lot of sportsmanship that needs to happen on the racetrack. And thankfully, everyone around me was showing that tonight.
Well, hey, not only picking up the win here tonight, but looking for three in a row next week at Talladega. and also with a shot at the championship. I don't know if you knew that you had a shot at the championship next week at Talladega with you missing 3 races here in the series. But what are your thoughts of picking up maybe a championship next week?
I'm not even going to pay attention to that. I just come out to the series and I just like to have fun. So I've been having fun, when I can. So I don't take it too serious. So hopefully next week, I can keep it to my strategy, brace around the guys that I know and trust. And hopefully it comes down to the end and it'll be between me, Chris, and Colin, I think, is what I'm being told. So hopefully we'll all race together in a nice neat pack and nothing crazy happens.
Definitely going to be a fun one right here on 3Y TV. Jason, congratulations on picking up the win here tonight. Before we let you go, any shout-outs?
Yeah, just thanks to Chris and NSRA for putting this league together. Thanks to Andrew for stepping up and being an admin. Appreciate Taz Racing Customs coming on to be the leading presenting sponsor for this series. I actually got my TNR Championship diecast in the mail today from Taz. It went over to my parents' house, and my dad sent me a couple photos, and it's looking very, very nice. So anytime you guys need a custom diecast to remember special paint scheme made by Max Grafix, hit up Taz. Fair prices, quality work. Thanks to 3Y TV for broadcasting this. Happy to get TNR a win, giving the good old boys back in victory lane. Garrett does a phenomenal job running that league. And thanks to Max Graphics for the sick paint scheme. This black and orange TNR car looked fire underneath the lights tonight.
Absolutely. Well, folks, I remember as a teenager racing against Jason Gracias, and he was winning races back then as well. Nothing has changed here 10 plus years down the road. Gracias going for another championship right here on 3Y TV next week. Best of luck there, Jason.
Thanks, Peter. Yeah. Thanks to everyone at home for watching and tuning in. Can't wait to see you guys next week, and stay tuned for Friday. The truck series kicks off its 2021 A season, so that should be fun right here on 3i TV as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Stealing my thunder. That was going to be the next thing out of my mouth, Jason, because we got more NSRA action next week, or not next week, but next night right here on the channel. That's right. The Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series kicks off with the duels right here at Daytona, and there's a little bit of a twist to this year. The duels are actually going to be at Legacy Daytona, the version with all the bumps and all that goodness. We're going to have that tomorrow night right here on the channel. 2 races to set the lineup for next week's Stay Tuned Sports Podcast 300. Next Friday night, 9 o'clock Eastern. Will be live tomorrow night at 9 o'clock Eastern as well for the 2 duels. And definitely looking forward to that one with Drew Eisenman alongside me on the call all season long in the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series. But Andre, great having you up here in the booth here tonight. Really enjoyed having you alongside for all 55 plus laps, as we did have that one green-white checker. Any final thoughts?
Again, thanks for having me. It was great working with you again, Peter. I'm glad I got to come up here and watch this race with you. It was a fantastic event. These guys put on quite the show. We saw some wrecks. We saw some good close battling side drafts. We saw some pit strategy. Really a race that had a little bit of everything. So just a fantastic race, and happy I was here.
Absolutely. Well, let's see if we can do kind of the final thing, and that is to show the final race results. Taking home the win is Jason Gracias in the number 1 machine. Nathan Maurer coming home in 2nd. Chris Darling in 3rd. Jeffrey Vickery, the sponsor for tonight's race, Threat Level Midnight Motorsports, there in 4th. Kyle Lewis in 5th. Colin Ullery, Brian Bradley, 6th and 7th. Brad Kirby, Shane Ledoux, Ben Adams rounding out your top 10. Jeff Wyatt, Andrew Himmelman, Woody Woodard there in 13th. Dominic Provite, James Woodard in 15th. Then you have the cars that all finished 1 lap down, starting with Steven Doziak, Sean Kostritza, Paul Bilston rounding out your top 18 drivers. And then you got some drivers back behind them: Ben Mashburn, John Doble, Evan Gilbert, Doug Neal, Evan Burke down in the 23rd position. 23 cars started here tonight, and that is the 23 cars and how they finish here at the famed World Center of Racing. Want to give a big shout out to Taz Racing Customs for sponsoring the Taz Racing Customs Super Speedway Series. Like Jason Gracia said, if you're in the market for a custom diecast, whether it be an iRacing car or perhaps a retro mod, take one of those old NASCARs, put it on a current car, or maybe just a current day NASCAR that you can't pick up a diecast for. Maybe you can go check out our friends over at Taz Racing Customs to pick up one of their custom diecasts. Also want to give a shout out to our friends over at SimTV for the camera angles we bring you each and every week here on 3Y TV. But for myself, Peter Short, and Andre Graham Bush, folks, stay safe, have a good night, and we shall see ya!